Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new week and a new edition of Houston Sports Weekly, our weekly podcast here on KPRC 2 Plus, and click2houston.com. We join you each and every Friday, and, of course, it lives on our sites for you to listen to or watch as well. I'm Sports Director Randy McAvoy alongside sports anchor reporter Ari Alexander. We thought we'd catch up a little bit on this week's edition of the podcast. A little bit later, second segment, we're going to have a conversation with U of H head coach Kelvin Sampson. But this first segment, Ari, what do you say we kind of catch everybody up and maybe weigh in on what's happening with the Astros and Caravan, but mainly the Texans and this coaching search that's getting a lot of attention. People are following it. It seems like every day it's almost like what the Texans watch, the update every day on where things stand. And as we tape this, they've interviewed 6 people. Now, by the time this drops, hopefully they would have interviewed D'Amico Ryans, which all indicators are Thursday or Friday that would have happened in San Francisco.
Yeah, and right now it's a lot of these Zoom interviews, and so I'm sort of waiting until we get into the real deal, these guys meeting in person and seeing what the finalists are like. It's good to see that their list of names is a little bit more grown-up list of names than it was last year, like Hines Ward, and they're giving some of these guys shots that have never been coaches or had like one year as a AAF or XFL or whatever, and it's enough. It's enough of that, or Josh McCown or any. And the good thing is that the names that they're interviewing are guys that other teams want. They're candidates that are generally deemed to be hot candidates within the football atmosphere, and it's no one confusing, right? The Texans don't put out a tweet that says, hey, we are planning to interview this guy on Thursday, and everyone goes, why? Who is that? And so it's nice to see that it's at least like a competent group of people. Yeah,
I mean, you look at the list now, as of Tuesday, Ben Johnson made the announcement. He had been interviewed, and I guess a couple other teams were kind of looking at him. If you're not familiar with Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, kind of a rising star in NFL circles with the Detroit Lions. Now, whether it's him and his agent thinking it wasn't going to work out anyway, for whatever reason, he informed the Texans and anybody else that he'd been talking to that he's going to be out of the process. He's staying put. You shocked by that, or you think at this point he probably knows it wasn't going to happen, at least this year for this cycle?
I mean, he was probably my favorite of the candidates just because the reason, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about him other than he is the Lions OC and the Lions offense went from being borderline unwatchable to like the most fun offensive football.
Yeah, he did a great job with him.
And he got some guys that were not super high picks or some people that people had maybe given up on, right? Like Jared Goff was a guy that got traded for Matthew Stafford. And it really worked out for the Rams originally. They won the Super Bowl, and people had given up on Jared Goff. And then he had this great year this year. I think he was a 4th-round pick in Amon-Ra St. Brown, the receiver out of USC. He was always, a 5-star talent.
Yeah.
And he was one of the best receivers in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown was awesome this year. And I think some of that is the way that they used him on offense. And so I was impressed taking a team like the Detroit Lions that had struggled for so long and were struggling in a very uninteresting way and making them a really fun team to watch. And so that's why I liked Ben Johnson. I don't really have a whole lot beyond that. Personality or anything like that, but I thought the Lions were fun to watch.
Yeah, everything I read, it was like, man, this guy is kind of has that leader type mentality, a really good mind when it comes to offense. But, a lot of people have been talking on Sports Talk Radio. We've been talking about it on Sports Sunday. You look at the early list that was developed by Nick Caserio, and I'm sure Kyle McNair and company were involved as well. A lot of defensive-minded guys. You had Sean Payton on it as well. Ben Johnson, one of those guys. It's what kind of coach do they need? And maybe that's why you're intrigued by Ben Johnson, maybe because of the offensive side. Do you think that has to be the priority? Or
for the most part, I think offensive coaches have done well in recent years. Sean McVay is an offensive coach. The Rams just won the Super Bowl. Andy Reid is an offensive coach. He just took, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs are contenders every year. I think that the one thing that worries me about the Texans going all in on these defensive guys, I know that David Culley was an offensive coach, but he was also never a coordinator. So that's, the less said about David Culley, the better. Lovey is a defensive coach. He's a defensive coordinator who became a head coach. And I think Nick Caserio and just the whole mentality of the Texans for a long, long time has been this Patriot South thing. And because Bill Belichick is a defensive coach, it feels like a lot of these teams, the Texans specifically, think, well, the way to build a team is to have this strong defense and special teams and do all the things right and kind of like Belichick. But the problem with looking at guys comparing someone to Bill Belichick is that they're not Bill Belichick. All these Bill Belichick assistants have been horrible head coaches because they're not him. He's a really specific guy. And it's the same thing. Almost it's like basketball comparisons. I remember when I was covering the Grizzlies, and they would draft based on comps. And they would draft people like Jordan Adams out of UCLA. That was their first round draft pick late in the draft. And they're like, oh, well, the numbers compare to James Harden. Gets a lot of steals, has a nice assist percentage. It looks like James Harden. Well, James Harden's James Harden for a reason, and Jordan Adams isn't James Harden. And then the next year they drafted a kid from LSU. I don't even remember his name, but the comp was Draymond Green. Like, oh, he's a good passer for being a 6'7" combo forward, and he was like out of the league in 2 years. Because Draymond Green's Draymond Green, and this guy's not Draymond Green. So that's the thing that scares me. Stop trying to have the next Belichick because there is no Belichick.
Right. Yeah, it's just you may never see one again, to be honest with you. Right now, and let's focus on Sean Payton now because that's getting a lot of attention. Again, as we record and tape this podcast, he's one of the candidates. We don't know if things are going to develop or not, but just what he would bring to the table and what you got to give up to get him. Where do you stand on what it would take to get Payton? We know it's going to be a draft pick, maybe one of these first rounders. It's going to cost you something to land him. Are you okay giving up a draft pick to get him, or do you scratch him off the list because of that?
I think you can get creative with the draft pick that you give up because what he was on Colin Cowherd's show this week, and he said it's going to take a mid to late first-round pick to get me. Well, the Texans don't have a mid to late first-round pick. They have the number 2 pick
and a 12
and a relatively early.
Yeah,
but you can flip that 12 back for a couple of things, right? You could trade back from 12 to 21 or whatever, and then get something else in another second or a third or whatever.
Right.
And then trade that 21st. And then you get extra picks for Sean Payton. So I think there's a way to get creative about it. So I'm not necessarily worried about that because everyone's saying, oh, the Texans have all these holes and they need to use all these picks to fill the roster. They're not that far off. They just aren't. I know they have a lot of issues, but I don't think that they're so far off where you have to like hoard this number 12 pick like a dragon on gold. Obviously you can't trade the 2. You need the quarterback.
Got to hold on to that one.
But past that, Jalen Petrie was a second-round pick. He's really good. He's going to be a starter for the next however many years for the Texans if they want to extend him fifth year. And he's a second-round pick playing like a first-round pick. So who's to say that your draft pick, and look at Kenyon Green, was a first-round pick and he struggled. I know he might still be good later on. But who's to say that your 18th pick, that whatever, let's say you trade back, and how it is going to be better than who you pick at 33 or 39 or whatever?
Yeah.
You have no idea. It's a crapshoot. I think that Sean Payton could be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes in, the next question is, what does that mean for Caserio? I don't think Caserio would just say, okay, I'll take this other job within the organization. I mean, I think he'd be out as GM. Based on Peyton's history, I don't think Peyton all of a sudden is going to say, okay, I'm not going to be really a power guy here. We'll share the load here. That's just not his nature. I think if he's going to be a head coach, he wants his hands on everything that goes with that and handles that responsibility. So I think Caserio would be gone. So if you're in Caserio's seat right now, I know he said the other day, remember in his news conference, if somebody comes in and if I come a fit, I got to accept that. I don't know. I'm not sure how he feels about that.
I also think that if that were to happen and Sean Payton comes in and Nick Caserio gets pushed out, he probably has a soft landing spot in New England, which feels like it happens to every guy that fails elsewhere for them. Look at Matt Patricia. Was a horrible head coach, and he's a defensive guy too. Randomly calling the offense now for the Patriots, and then Joe Judge was their special teams coordinator, became the Giants head coach, was an awful head coach, and then comes back and is now like the co-OC or doing whatever it is Belichick wants him to do.
Yeah,
I think there's a soft landing spot for Caserio. So if you're Nick Caserio, you're going to have to take the licks and the fact that you failed as your first time as the GM. He's going to have a job, though, if he gets pushed out. I wouldn't be that worried if I were him.
Yeah, we'll see. All indications are we hear a lot from Aaron Wilson, our Texans insider, that it could take another couple more weeks before we really know how this thing's going to play out because the playoffs are still going on. We don't know exactly how they feel about other candidates. D'Amico Ryans is a guy you're hearing a lot of. But they'll speak, and then Niners play the Cowboys coming up this weekend. So before we go to break, because we got a kind of an extended interview with Kelvin Sampson in segment 2, but just a quick take on the Astros caravan getting underway. I know you're off, but they had the big caravan stop earlier the week at the Woodlands on Tuesday night. Yeah, your guy, Jeremy Pena, back in town, looking like he's been working out in the offseason. I think he's fired up. Good to see him back, and you kind of got a sense just from the turnout in the Woodlands just how popular this guy is now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on top of the world since the World Series, and I think that MLB is starting to build a little bit of marketing, not just here at Houston, a little bit of marketing around the league, around him, and around all these young players. There's a lot of really exciting rookies in baseball, and Jeremy worked his way in there because there's a lot of marketing around Julio Rodriguez, and then Adley Rutschman, and the Orioles didn't make the playoffs. The Mariners did, and they were kind of the team of destiny, and the Astros were the ones to beat them. And then Jeremy gets CS MVP, World Series MVP. He obviously does well in marketing, and he's always going to do the work. He's out in Florida this offseason at Cressy Sports Performance, which is a place that has offices in Boston and in Florida. He was at Boston location for a long time. Now he's at the one in Florida, and he also stops by the Astros facility quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's going to do his work. He knows what he needs to do. Who's been carrying this caravan, though, is David Hensley.
He's like all over the place. Every stop from Whataburger, Chick-fil-A to Ronald McDonald House, everything.
And I talked to him today, and I told him that, like, man, they're working you overtime. And it's like, yeah, it's 11 to 7. It's like a full-time job. He gets up in the morning, goes to hit at the facility a little bit. He trains a few times a week with Alex Bregman, and we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah,
about
that's cool.
Learning how intentional you need to be with the specific things you need to work on, because he's coming up through the minors. There's no one like Alex Bregman to teach him of like, hey, this is how specific you need to work at. So
that's huge. That's huge for him. And he, with Ledmus Diaz gone, David Hensley's a guy that's got a very legitimate shot.
Replace Ledmus Diaz, other than Hensley.
He's going into camp with a job, and Dusty Baker likes him too. I think there's a good chance he sticks. And is that guy can fill that role.
Plays 4 positions, can play a little bit of left field, hit really well toward the end of the year.
Yep.
He's clearly worked hard this offseason. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't take that Diaz role.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Houston Sports Weekly. Good conversation on the Texans, a little bit on the Astros as well. On the other side, an extended conversation. I had a chance to spend a few minutes with U of H head coach Kelvin Sampson, the Cougs #1 in the country, back in action on Sunday at home against Temple, I believe, there at Fertitta Center. So the conversation with Kelvin Sampson straight ahead here on Houston Sports Weekly. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on Houston Sports Weekly. Great conversation there in that first segment on the Texans coaching search. We'll see how that plays out here in the weeks ahead. Randy McAvoy, Ari Alexander with you. Got a conversation with Kelvin Sampson. This team with U of H has been fun to watch. Final Four had their tip-off event this week as well. It's all the landing spot's going to be here in Houston. Could U of H be here? It's going to be exciting. They've got the team that can make it.
Yeah, they do. They're really talented. The only thing that's hurting them, that stops them, is when they don't make shots, and there's never really a good reason for it.
Yeah.
The good thing about U of H is even when they don't make shots, they can win games because they do everything else right. They rebound, they play defense, they dive for loose balls. Kelvin Sampson is such a good coach that he has them doing all the right things, and so really the only thing is just sometimes you don't hit them in basketball.
Right.
But I think when they do hit shots, there's very few teams in the country that can beat them.
All right, I had a chance to spend some time with Kelvin Sampson on Wednesday morning at his office, actually in the film room there, just adjacent to his office there inside Fertitta Center. Good conversation. We're going to play some of that right now. All right, here inside the Houston Cougars film room with head coach Kelvin Sampson. Good to see you, Kelvin.
Good to see you, Randy.
The season is going great, and it's been fun to watch this team develop. And you take it team by team, and it's loaded with talent. But you like to craft that particular year's group and instill in them what you need. And it seems the pieces seem to be coming together really nice.
Yeah, it's always a challenge because the last 5 years, you go back and look at each team. It's a different entity in a lot of ways. But we've had a lot of experience with these 5 years or 6 years. We've lost 4 starters every year. And I can go back and name every starter. So now we're having to replace those guys. But player development's important, but also little things like getting Emmanuel Sharp minutes as we can this year, Terrence Arsenault, Javier Francis.
Yeah.
So none of those guys start this year, but they may start next year. So we're replacing starters with guys that get minutes. Now we'll have some incoming guys that may start. Who knows? Then we have some guys that we don't even know, they're not on the team. But, last year, I was talking to some reporters in New Orleans yesterday. When we played there last year, the guys that really played well was Kyler Edwards, Tajay Moore, Fabian, and Josh Carlton. All those guys are gone. So this year it's Jamal, who started last year, but Marcus, Tremont, Jarris Walker, and J1 Roberts. Here comes JVA Francis. Here comes Emmanuel. Here comes Terrence.
New pieces. Yeah.
Just new pieces. But every year, you're just trying to get them to fit. But we adjust to our teams. Now the things that's not negotiable or even up for discussion is how we do things, our discipline. And those are the things that separate programs over the course of a year. Is what is your program built from? Do you have a culture? People that make fun of culture don't understand how important it is. It's extremely important. Being on time is important, man.
It's one of the foundations of the program. Man.
Absolutely. Effort and attitude.
Yeah.
I'll get random texts from all over the world. Chris Harris, Rob Gray, Damian Dotson, Justin Gorham, Bryson Gresham, Dejon Quinton, Armani. They'll text me or I'll text them, and it's somewhere in the conversation, either early or late, they always end it with attitude and effort, coach. So those are things that they took from here that helped them be successful. And I share that with these kids.
Does that make you feel good when you see that?
Yeah, it does. But we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
We've been at different schools, but we've always taken our culture with us. When you say what has allowed you to succeed at different stops, it's that.
Right.
But it also goes into the type of kids you recruit. We recruit kids that are that will fit. That's why you rarely ever see. I think we've had one kid in 9 years in our top 10 transfer, whereas some schools average 3 or 4 a year.
Right.
So we recruit the right kind of kids, and they buy in, and I have a tremendous staff.
And on a follow-up to that, and you've addressed it before, when these kids come into this program, you got to make it clear what the expectations are. So there's nothing they don't know already coming in. They've got to embrace their role at this particular. Their role may be different next year, as you mentioned. They may be a starter next year, but on this team, they got to know, okay, this is my role on this team.
Well, we've been good for a long time. Different levels of good, obviously, but we've been ranked for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. So they know what they're getting into. Guys, our success and our name has helped us tremendously in getting involved with different levels of kids. Now, once we offer a kid and we get involved with them, a lot of times we'll back out and say, probably not the right fit. Right. Good player. And people may say, well, it's too bad we lost that kid, or why didn't we get this kid? Well, there's a reason why for us. Jarris Walker took a bunch of visits. Terrence Arsenault took visits. Emmanuel Sharp. All our guys look at other schools, but they always come back to here because their goals they all want to play professional basketball. And then when you have a track record of putting guys, whether it's in the NBA or high-paying jobs overseas, they see that as an opportunity for them to reach their goals and dreams.
You seeing everything play out as you thought the day you took the job back in 2014? Because back then, when I recall, I don't know your exact words, but you felt you could get University of Houston to where it is today. And you needed facilities, you needed all the upgrades. You got that commitment now, and now you're starting to see a lot of that payoff, aren't you?
Well, one of the things that, and some administrators don't even understand this, because you have great facilities doesn't mean you're going to win. There's a lot better coaches than I am that have far better facilities that we have that get fired because they don't win. Facilities don't win games. Coaches and players win games. What facilities does is it sends a message that it's important. For the coaches that preceded me, basketball wasn't important here. They didn't get any help from the administration. They didn't. So why didn't they have a facility? I remember 15, 16, when we got here, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how James Dickey and those guys that recruited. because you're not going to show them high fines, and you're
Where
off.
you take 'em.
Yeah, you don't have a practice facility, so you're basically saying we're a middle to bottom of the pack Conference USA school, which is what we were when we got here. Now you had a random good player here or there, but you couldn't get past first base because of the facilities.
Right.
And I give so much credit to Mac Rose and Hunter Yurchek, because those were the guys that got this thing going. They broke ground. Yep. They helped us put this building in place. And President Couture signed off on it. But the main guy was Tillman. Tillman doesn't give $20 million and put his name on the Petito Center. That thing doesn't get built. And behind the scenes, we were kind of like dog's paws under the water. We were working our butt off, coaching the team, but I spent more time trying to get attitudes changed and get people to support the basketball program. But I think everybody was so football oriented, they didn't understand that basketball could win here, because they never seen it win. And the support wasn't at the level that I thought that we could win with. But I think the more we've won, the more people's jumped on board. And I'm appreciative of that. Winning, I found this out. Winning has many fathers. Losing is an orphan. So the more we've won, the more people jumped in and wanted to be part of it. And I said, come on, the more the merrier.
You ever thought about writing a book? You got a lot of good analogies that you use in the course of the year.
Well, I do know this, is that it's hard to win a game. It's hard to win in college basketball. I saw just last Saturday, 11 teams that were ranked got beat. Right. So every time you step on the court, there's an understanding if you don't do things right that you can lose. But we've had an expectation. When you start with a team, Randy, they always have a hope. Yeah. They hope they can win, and then they start doing pretty good, and they think they can win. Then ultimately, you want to get to the point where you can win, right? No matter where you go. This current team, wherever we go, is going to be that school's biggest turnout of the year. Last night,
it's like you got it at Tulane.
Yeah, that awesome atmosphere last night. That place was rocking in there. But here was our game plan. Here was our preparation. Our kids knew how we wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and we went on the road and got the job done, just like we did at Virginia, at Oregon, Cincinnati, Tulane. So. But we know we can lose those games. But our kids are fighters, and they're competitors, and they want to win.
All right, great chat with U of H head coach Kelvin Sampson. A lot of basketball left. He's not looking ahead really about the tournament or Final Four. As he pointed out, he said it's just who's our next game. We got to prepare for our next game. When that one's done, you get ready for the next one. I like that approach. He doesn't get ahead of himself.
Yeah, but I think fans can.
Oh, absolutely. We've had a blast doing that.
I think that they can.
We're really looking at seedings and locations and everything.
Go undefeated in conference play. There's
I think so,
not
too.
a single team that I've seen in the AAC that can beat them. I know.
Early, I thought maybe Memphis, but I mean, Memphis is good, but I don't think nobody's going to. I just don't think anybody's going to beat these guys.
Talent. I really wanted Penny Hardaway to do well there because I like him and know him back from my Memphis days, but he just hasn't as much.
Yeah, seems like they've always had U of H's number though. So that's why I think it might be. When they go to Memphis, I'll be interested to see how that one plays out.
FedEx Forum's a tough place to play, but I think from a coaching standpoint, there are very few coaches that can out-coach Kelvin.
Yeah. All right, Temple at Fertitta Center coming up on Sunday. Go out and support them. I think it's a 2 o'clock tip-off on a Sunday afternoon. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Houston Sports Weekly. Thanks for hanging out with us for the last 30 minutes. Again, every week here on click2houston.com and KPRC 2+. Join myself, Ari, Chancellor Johnson's in the mix as well. We kind of mix it up, have good conversations about the hot topics on the Houston sports scene. So that'll do it for now. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll do it again next week right here on Houston Sports Weekly.